Alright, so this video is about a reaction to the Warframe Valkyr Prime trailer that finally released, and I have my own theories that may get confirmed or disproven just by this. I have some links open, so I'll quickly go over the trailer and then I'll give you my thoughts on Valkyr Prime's origin real quick. Okay, dead corpus. That's dead corpus. He sliced him off. Oh, she got disarmed. What? That's it? It's kind of short. Well, from that trailer, I didn't hear Executor Ballas talk about it, which means that possibly Valkyr wasn't a prime in the Orkan era. I might be wrong, but every other trailer, from Volbin to Sarin to Necros, I was always looking forward to the trailers because they help me pronounce the warframes. Volbin, I was instinctively calling Vubin until Executor Ballas said his name, Volbin, in a nice cryptic voice. But alright, so I'm going to go along with my original theory that Valkyr Prime is the first Tenno recreated Prime. And I have some theories to support this. So on the wiki page, when you look up Prime, it says that the Tenno have tried to imitate success Orkan technologies in the past. And the Tenno were actually once capable of creating primes on their own, examples being Boar, Deneka, and Katniss Prime. However, such knowledge is lost, but with the rediscovered Void, many prime items being reclaimed by Tenno and are reverse engineered by the Corpus and the Grineer. Now obviously we know that Valkyr was experimented on by Alan V. And I have the point here in Jupiter. It was actually Themisto that had
you have loyalty issues.
That was making that you would farm. That's the point you go to farm for Valkyr parts. And note its proximity to the Void. It's pretty close. That's just the way it is. But I have a theory that goes even deeper than that. Let's talk about the Prime relics to begin with. Alright, the things that we use to get all of our Prime parts. Well, as Ordis once said a long time ago when I was starting this game, 2 months ago, he said that the relics are simultaneously this thing or that thing, so multiple items. And that when you expose to a void fissure, the possibilities collapse until it cracks open and you get your item. So with that exposure, we know that Valkyr Prime, after having her body cracked open already, and pretty much half of her face is already opened before you get the regular helmets, we can assume that the player playing Valkyr, in terms of story, went out and did fissures like everyone else, because it's part of the game. You just do it normally. But then that exposure to reactants or void fissures while it's gathering parts did something as it entered into Valkyr's exposed body. Like I said, Order says, the relics are simultaneously many things. And you know your body glows yellow when you are gathering relics. It's not just the relics that are exposed, the warframe itself is exposed. It's quite possible that Orkans exposed parts to the Void, or they had developed technology using the Void to encase something, but they never really understood the Void to the extent that it could also make something new. So I'm thinking Valkyr was an accident. Valkyr Prime was an accident, and due to her exposure, her prime parts became available. I'll actually go into Valkyr herself. Well, maybe not wearing her helmet, but I don't have Valkyr Prime, but from the looks of other people, she's got like spikes and everything coming out of her. They protrude out from her body rather than the standard golden embezzlements that just show on her. Look here. Appearance. So yeah, that's my theory. Seeing as how all that is exposed right here in her head, and if she turns all golden from being exposed to void fissures and void reactants, I think that eventually the logic is that eventually all that information, genetic information, would have gone into the relics themselves, and the relics have gained that possibility of becoming something else. Sort of like a mutation or a recessive gene that comes from a dice roll of giving birth or cells multiplying. But yeah, that's my quick theory, because that would also explain the continuity of her hatred for the corpus we just saw in the trailer, because essentially it is the same war frame and the operator that operated her at the same time. So it's the combination of the soul, the operator, and then the body, the Warframe puppets, and how they came to be and how they can. So I'm just theory crafting. The Warframe is the father or the mother, or Valkyrie is also the mother twice.
It will be marked on navigation.
And then they make a child that is Valkyr Prime. That's the theory in a nutshell that can be summed up. I don't like the fact that it wasn't fed to us as easily, that I had to try to piece together, so there wasn't much leading onto it, aside from the fact that Ballas didn't talk in the trailer, indicating that there might not have been a Valkyr Prime in the past, and that this is a new creation that came up because of interference from Alid V, Jupiter's proximity to the void, and the fact that us players would take Valkyr out to void relic farm and get exposure to void relics and void fissures to eventually create the parts that can create a Valkyr Prime. So that's my theory crafting. Tell me what you think, and I'll write down all descriptions and send the links below so people can express their own thoughts. And I will see you next time I do another mastery test.